Hi, Cal. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi there, Amy.
We are exploring the theme of flexibility this month, and flexibility in the context of city making. Certainly flexible is a real buzzword at the moment when it comes to conversations around back to the office and back to work. What has the last 12 months meant for the flexible office sector, and how has it had to adapt?
Well, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. I think if you could have come up with something to derail this sector, then the COVID pandemic might have been it, where everyone works from home and everyone cancels their short-term contracts. And so I think many predicted at the start, certainly when the outbreak first happened, that it could well be the death of not just the office, but certainly co-working and flexible space as a concept. But I think it has been more robust than probably people would want to give it credit for. And I think part of that was its relatively quick nature to go and react to it. A lot of the operators went out quickly to change the structure of their leases, get rent reductions or rent deferment with landlord. And that quick adaptation has really put them all into survival mode over the last 12 months. And so in some ways it has been more robust than probably people gave it credit for. I think in our data, occupancy pre-COVID was about 85 to 90%. It's now down at 66%, but that stayed flat over the last 3 months. So the sense is we're now right at the bottom, and hopefully we're now on the way up again. Inquiries are now back to near 100% of normal pre-COVID level. And so our expectation is things will begin to tick back up in a more positive way. And certainly this year, 2021, has started a lot stronger than we probably anticipated when we first came into it in the middle of another lockdown. But it seems like companies, be it startups or corporates, are all now committing to space. And the vaccine rollout has given them that confidence to do so, which simply wasn't there before.
That's really good to hear. So hopefully looking at a real back to school feeling come September.
Definitely. New uniform, maybe a change uniform.
I saw Savills ran a survey recently that showed 75% of landlords expect tenants to ask for more flexible lease terms in the future. What's this going to mean for the market?
Well, I think it's going to mean a number of things. I think it's also important to clarify that often flexibility is coined as the main reason, but actually a lot of what the customer wants is more than just the straight flexibility of taking the space, but the ease of taking the space, the services that are provided within that space, the monthly contract that includes all of those costs and the ease of procuring that. And obviously not the capital outlay that comes with the start in terms of fitting it out. So flexibility is often coined as the main reason, but actually there's a lot of other reasons why they take this space. But what it means is I think we'll see more and more landlords provide space within their buildings, either through a management agreement and partnership with an operator, or through doing it themselves. And obviously we've seen a few landlords like BL, like Landsec, like L&G emerge into the space and create their own product. And we're seeing many others look to follow them. But there's also a lot out there who don't have that same resource, same capacity and same expertise. And so they're leveraging the third-party partners to go and deliver that space. So I expect going forward, most buildings, certainly a 50K plus and very confidently of 100K plus in terms of square feet, to have some kind of co-working flexible workspace or meeting amenity inside them, because that's going to be one of the top items on the list now for a lot of occupiers looking at the space as to whether they take the conventional space. The building needs to have some kind of flex offer as well.
And there's a strong existing selection of providers, international, national, independent, and some of the big landowners that you just mentioned. Do you think there's space for landlords to bring new products to the market in this space?
I do, yeah. I think we did some calculations. We think the market is still about 5%, and this is just in the UK. So flex counts for about 5% of total office stock. And that's a pretty small amount, given the amount of airtime it gets across different channels. And so I think there's huge scope, certainly in the regions, certainly across our tier 1 cities, tier 2, tier 3 towns and cities. There is a really small offer at the moment, and there is a real lack of good quality supply. So I think we'll see lots of different types of landlords begin to deliver space, and that 5% figure will rise and rise. Certainly in the data in the research report we did recently, where we did the survey of our clients, when we asked them if they operate their own brand, 29% already did, 17% said no, but they were planning to, and 12% said no, but they would like to. And of that 17%, they account for about 300 million square feet of space. That's almost a third of the entire office market. So I think that does point towards the fact that we'll see more landlords deliver their own type of space. And I think the overarching impact, we'll see an increased blurring of the lines between what is a flexible service office space and what is a conventional lease. And from one end of the spectrum to another, there won't necessarily be that black and white line now that said this is a service office and this is a lease. I think you'll have a whole myriad of different types of space in between.
And given that blurring, how do you think providers in the market will stay competitive and relevant?
This is a really good question. I think too often operators try to differentiate solely by design, but a lot of the new design is good design. So it's about what other offers can you provide that create a real stickiness with customers. And certainly one area where I think is getting good traction and will only get better traction is around ESG. What can you do for your customers that enables them to meet their ESG targets, be it in the delivery of the space, be it in the management of the space, be it in the reporting and data around the space. And a few early operators adopting that model, I think will have great success, because that's also going to the top of a lot of clients' lists. It's about knowing what your niche is, knowing your market. I think operators that target certain specific sectors, clusters, target the right buildings, locations. Location and building is still number one for many, and clearly cost as well. So there are many ways to differentiate. Too often people differentiate only by design and a very similar product. But I would definitely look at focusing more around the ESG chapter and how you create a much clearer transparency for the customers coming in that gives them a really good idea as to what type of space they're coming into and what impact that has on the wider environment, what social value that space can bring to them and their business and the wider community. That kind of differentiation, I think, will play an important role in the market going forward.
There's clearly a real human-centric piece of the puzzle here. Do you think technology and new technology has a big part to play?
Definitely in the first part of that, in terms of data and understanding, and the second part of that is creating a more, I guess, democratized product. So at the moment, you're often going to one operator, be that a WeWork, be that a Regis, or be that a landlord product, but whereby you can allow your workforce to work from multiple operators and it becomes decentralized, and they buy credits and they pay as you go, and they can access any type of space wherever they may be and for whatever purpose they need to use it for. That becomes quite a powerful tool. And that's, I think, where technology will really come into play in enabling that to happen in a seamless fashion, enabling that inventory to come in, and so people can book space on demand wherever that might be. And enabling the companies, the people that are using the space, to have that data about how their employees are working, how they're using the space, not to kind of check up on them as to whether they're working or not, but just to understand where they work best, how are they most productive, and how the office fits into that wider real estate strategy. So I think technology has a huge role to play over the next decade, both from how we deliver spaces to how we use the spaces as an end user, as well as being the operator yourself.
The flexible office market's obviously come a long way in the last decade. It's a key sector, and it's a particularly interesting time to see where it goes in the future. It's been so interesting talking to you and getting your insights on this.
Absolute pleasure, Amy. Delighted to be a part, and thank you for inviting me.